In the 1970s, the company that sold you chocolate, coffee, and baby formula was connected to the deaths of millions of infants, not through poison, through a marketing strategy so perfectly engineered that it convinced mothers to abandon the one thing that could have saved their babies: breast milk. The figure often cited is 10 million dead children across the developing world, and the system that enabled this is still operating today, just wrapped in a cleaner label. To understand how this happened, go back to the late 1960s. The Western formula market was saturated. Everyone who could buy it already was, so the food giants turned south, to Africa, Asia, and Latin America, where birth rates were high and a middle class was just emerging. Nestle saw hundreds of millions of mothers who had always breastfed for free. The problem, from a profit perspective, was that breast milk was too efficient. Free, always available, no corporate intermediary required. So Nestle built a machine to replace it, a machine with one purpose: turn a natural, zero-cost act into a paid product. The hidden operators of this machine were the milk nurses, saleswomen in white uniforms designed to look like medical professionals. They walked into rural villages and maternity wards across the developing world, handing out free samples of infant formula. They knew exactly what would happen next. Once a mother switches to bottle feeding, her milk supply dries up within days. She is locked in. The free sample was the bait. The dried-up breast was the trap. These nurses whispered that formula was modern, scientific, better for the baby. They targeted the most vulnerable: illiterate mothers, poor mothers, exhausted new mothers desperate to do the right thing. The white uniform was the uniform of authority, and it hit trust like a sledgehammer. The death mechanics were not subtle. In a village without clean water, mixing formula is a death sentence. The powder requires boiled water, sterilized bottles, and a mother who can read instructions and measure accurately. None of that exists in a slum or drought-stricken village. Mothers trying to stretch a tin that cost a week's wages would dilute it with too much water. The baby would slowly starve, belly full but body deprived. Or the water would be contaminated and the baby would die of diarrhea, flushing out every electrolyte until nothing remained. Breast milk is sterile, perfectly calibrated, and free. The company knew this. Leaked internal documents showed executives discussing the need to get them hooked in the first weeks after birth. This was not an accident. It was a calculated substitution of a safe, free product with a dangerous paid one, and 10 million bodies were the cost of market penetration. The global response was not immediate. Doctors were paid to endorse formula. Hospitals received free supplies and funding. Governments were lobbied to keep regulations weak. When the first reports of infant deaths surfaced, Nestle did not stop. It doubled down, launching a PR counteroffensive, issuing legal threats, and pushing false health claims. The boycott came, organized by activists who understood that the only way to hurt a corporation is to hit its brand. But the machine adapted. Nestle rebranded, shifted tactics, and kept selling formula in the poorest corners of the world through third-party distributors who provided plausible deniability. The World Health Organization eventually passed a code to restrict formula marketing. It was voluntary. Nestle has been caught violating it repeatedly, from the Philippines to Nigeria to Bangladesh. The fines are a rounding error. The system is not broken. It is operating exactly as it was designed. The infant formula industry is a multi-trillion-dollar machine built on convincing mothers that their own bodies are inadequate. The 10 million dead in the developing world was never a mistake. It was the necessary collateral of expanding a market that should never have existed. Nestle did not set out to kill children. It set out to grow revenue, and revenue grew in direct proportion to the number of mothers who abandoned breastfeeding. The 10 million dead were not murdered in the traditional sense. They were processed, converted into market share, and absorbed into the quarterly earnings of a company that is still one of the most trusted brands on earth. The next time you see a Nestle product on a shelf, remember, the company behind it once looked at a mother's breast and saw not a source of life, but a barrier to profit. And that same logic is still running the machine.